Hello friend, it's Mark out in the back 40. 2 months ago, I did not know what a grain drill was, what a corn planter was, what a no-till drill really was. I knew of them, but I didn't know all the specifics. And now that I have decided to go no-till on my food plots, and I've also decided that broadcasting on top of everything doesn't work, and I have to mechanically put it in the soil, now I have to find out what machine I want to use. So I'm going to cover what I've learned about the 3 different machines for you to hopefully shorten your learning curve on what these different options are. I've been fascinated with the process of going from tilling ground to no tilling ground. Like, you do not disc or rototill your ground. And it started with, I think it was Grant Woods, Dr. Grant Woods on Growing Deer TV. You probably watch his videos. And then that got me onto actually some farmers like Gabe Brown and Dave Brandt. I actually bought Gabe Brown's book and read his book, and it was fascinating to me. So the whole concept of no-till really clicks in my brain, and I really understand all the concepts, like keep the ground covered, don't rototill or don't disc, don't disturb the ground, keep something growing in there all the time, feed the soil, feed the worms, feed the microbes. And I've done that for 3 years now, and I'm getting great results from it. But anyways, part of that process is that no longer are you tilling the ground or scraping the ground in any way. So it's really tough to get seed to soil contact to get them to grow. And so I've watched Jeff Sturgis videos, and I've tried his no-till process, and I think my ground is too light. It's too sandy. There's not enough moisture there to do it how he does, and where I just broadcast it on the top. I would even cultipack on top of it to really try and press it down in there, and I was getting terrible germination. And I didn't try it just once. I tried it twice a year for 2.5 years until this fall. And finally, a friend of mine has a old grain drill, and this is it right here. That's why I'm standing here in this ugly garage. But and I'm going to talk about this in a second. But he was kind enough to bring this over to me and let me borrow it and test with it. And you can see the video here where I did a bunch of testing with it. And I'm happy to report that, to me, it works to the point where this is what I'm going to use instead of a no-till grain drill. Now, let's talk about the different devices that the farmers have out there that they use to do no-till. So number one, the very first one that was out there was this thing that you're looking at here. It's a grain drill. And this is made to actually plant a lot of seeds. It can be a variety of seeds, a variety of spacings on already worked up land. Like land that has already, or ground that is disked or rototilled, dragged. It's all what they would call prepared. But that's not what we want to do. We don't want to work the ground. But that's what this thing is made to do, is to plant into that. So device number 2 that came out was what I think most people refer to as a planter. Like, okay, what is a planter compared to a seeder, compared to a drill, compared to all these things? There's all these different things. And I've learned what a planter is what the farmers use to put in, for the most part, corn and soybeans. And there's different technologies with those. And the problem with those for us food plotters is that the spacing is really wide. Like, it will only plant rows typically in that 30 to 32 inch range, but you can squeeze them and slide them on the bar and make them a little bit closer. But they're more expensive, and you need to do a lot of passes if you're doing a smaller plant, like brassicas and clovers and grains. Like, we want them closer than 30-inch rows, right? You can imagine 30 inches apart. I mean, there would be so much dirt exposed, you'd have a ton of weeds. So that is the other thing that you hear about. Here I'm called a planter. They're great because they're accurate. They drill through debris on the ground. You don't need to always prepare the ground ahead of time. They're very accurate. Now, the third thing that I'll say is relatively new, and I don't know, I have no idea. Was it the 80s or something? I don't know. But anyways, is the no-till drill. And that is the thing that you're starting to see more and more and more of, because no-till is becoming accepted in the farming world. So a no-till drill is similar to a grain drill, except in front of the blades, in front of, you see these cutters right here, in front of that, what would be right out here would be what they call a cutter or a coulter. And the sole purpose of the disc out in front of these other discs is to cut through stuff, is to cut through debris from the old crop, like all corn stalks and rye grain stalks. And also, if you have heavy soil, is to cut through those rocks and to cut through the clay so that the planting disc that comes behind it doesn't have as much work to do. Okay? So that is what the third thing is. So the thing with no-till drills is they're heavier. You can plant a variety of seeds, and they're more accurate than a grain drill as far as depth control. Like, you can control how much depth you need depending on the seed that you're planting. So they're really accurate machines. They're fantastic machines. I love them. But they're very expensive because of all the engineering that goes into them and all the pieces and parts and the detail. They're expensive machines. I mean, those ones that you see Grant Woods driving around out on his Growing Deer TV, those things are ranging from anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 for those things. Where you can get one of these used grain drills, 1950s, 1960s vintage. They still work fine. They split the soil open, they drop a seed in, it rains and it covers it up and is planted for food plots. I mean, you can find these things from anywhere from $500 to $2,000, $500 to $2,000.